Oh, hi. Let's see. There we are, with the clicker and everything. Oh, yeah, and it works. Thank you. I'm neither an old or an experienced software developer. Talking about age, there is a separate... The reason for coming here might be that I'm giving a presentation here for about 300 people. It's a massive event, but that's not the main reason. The reason is because Jan Kumlin, our head of the Finnish office, it's his birthday today. So that's a tradition we have in Adform. We're 850 people, so I travel a lot. There's a lot of birthdays, I can tell you that. Jan is turning 52 today, or 32, or somewhere in between. I don't know. It's something we don't talk to that much either. Celebration continues, Jan. Yeah. I was here giving a presentation for an IAB event almost 1.5 years ago. It was in February 2015. I won't ask how many that were there. I'm going to ask how many remember that you saw me then. I don't, as my wife says, you don't get much of an impression. There's only 4 of you. Good. I always do. I'm in front of a Finnish crowd. I always say something. I don't know really what I say, but apparently it's en olen ruotsalainen, mutta en voi sille mitten. And people always laugh a little bit like that. It's still, I got comfortable, but someone tried to explain it in English, and it doesn't make sense to me, but that's what it is. Something being Swedish, and it's hard to do anything about it. I've been asked to talk about programmatic, and I've been giving 20 minutes. There are so many things to talk about. I have, if you were looking through, I have a deck that is way beyond that. I will try to do, one said once, don't cut in scope, just speak faster. I think I have a problem doing that. I speak fast as I do, but I will try to flip through it. And I will try to guide you through a few observations as we can see as a technology supplier. And I've seen our name up there. Adformi is coming up, and we're part of the ecosystem absolutely here in Finland. I will put some things out there that about what marketing trends there are. That's a little bit just trying from our horizon, looking out to the landscape. Okay, so let's go. What a start. There we have it. No, there we have it. No, this one. There we have it. So again, this is me, a picture that I use in this, I gave a presentation about how unpredictable the world was, and this was the most recent picture when I came out of jail. Anyway, Adform. How many in here know Adform? There we are. Good. And so we don't need to talk much about that. We save some time. When we look at the programmatic landscape, what is happening? I think with all these technology things happening, and we're talking header bidding, we're talking data segmentations, we're talking nits and gritty, bits and bytes, up and down, green and yellow. I think what needs to be done in order to be able to sort out where are we heading, there is one guy, in every ecosystem there is a buyer. And that buyer drives things. What is actually an interest? So looking at what the market is, and I know there were some raising hands in here, so there are a few marketeers in here that are actually the buyers. What do they want? What is actually the purpose? Well, a marketeer wants for the brand, create awareness and interaction and drive engagement. You want to know that you put it on primary inventory, you know where you want to put it. You want some local data, you want to know, ensure that it ends up where it should be. So you can keep that under control in some sense or another. You need to, because you're under pressure. The CEO constantly asks you, what are we spending? What do we get out of these money? We pull things into the marketing budget. I mean, you heard that, all of you that are working with these things. So you have to be able to report back in a sensible manner. Then, also, what you want to do now is getting benefits from the programmatic part. This is unchanged. This is something that we see. This is what drives the technology. In the long run, I would say. Sometimes technology comes first, and we as a developer, we think we've developed the most fantastic thing there is, but there is no one buying it. Then it can be as fantastic as we want to. It is these things that are driving it. So, out of that, this is the 6 bullet points this is the agenda in a more graphical way. I won't touch upon the upper 3 as much as the lower 3. That's where I'm going to spend the majority of the time of these now remaining 16 minutes or something like that. I need speed up. So, starting with fraud-free, this was 1.5 years ago a major problem. There's been quite a heavy tie-up on the ad exchanges. I saw some number at one point. There were 90% of all inventory in US ad exchanges 2 or 3 years ago were fraud. I think that's too much. But even though if it's 50, there's been a lot of cleanup there. So that has gone down. But fraud is still there in the ad exchanges. But since more and more go into private marketplaces and direct deals, etc., this has become less of a problem. But now mobile is picking up. I saw some numbers about a Russian ad fraud company on mobile simulating app downloads, simulating mobile traffic, etc. So there are new thoughts, new ways of fraud coming in. But I think we've seen the peak of it. I know Toffe and Jaakko will talk about it a little bit later, so it's a little bit of a cliffhanger into their presentation. So fraud has become less of a problem, but still there. Brand safety. I don't know how big this is. This was a problem when you're spraying out and you're going into various ad exchanges. But of course, if you end up in a situation like this, by the way, just wanted a reflection again coming from Sweden. The first ad word there, potatismos. That was the only thing, and people were laughing about that. I didn't get that advertisement, but again, it was stjärnpotatis och potatismos. That was the two things I took with me from that advert. And Sanema is doing that. Anyway. Brand safety, potatismos. So in Swedish, you don't want to, is this a brand safety thing? This is examples that no, you don't want to that. If you're famous Gruus, you don't want to be below where a drunk mom just fell out of the car and the 3-year-old took over the driving wheel, and then the famous Gruus has got a new appearance. No, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be where the body was stuck into parts and put into 3 different boxes and then DHL at the side. I've seen those too. But is this a real problem? Or is it more to block the sites that you don't want to be? And how much does this affect your brand? I don't know. But I think the brand safety, the guys that are in the brand safety, contextual and all those things is of course important. But as we see it, it's an important factor in what we are able to do, but it's not a main focus. But that's our observation. So, guaranteed viewability, also discussion about selling viewability rather than paying for viewable ads, etc. What is then viewable? That's another discussion. But of course, the viewability, and this is quite interesting also, given all the technology that we're now building on top of it, there are primary ads, top primary inventory on various publishers that have a viewability of 20%. Due to that, all ad tech is loaded. So when a user a user comes into the website, before all ad tech has been loaded, all the auctions has been made, all the better header bidding stuff has been done, the users have scrolled down. So for the primary top banner, there is a 20% viewability. That's of course a built-in technology problem that needs to be addressed. So there is, with all the technology loaded, there are definitely challenges on that. However, I think one of the main viewability and problems, of course, in the industry is the ad blocker. The trend is that the ad blocker increase has kind of flattened out, and even a decrease of ad blockers. And there is a constant fight. Facebook came out with a new set of technology so that the ad blockers couldn't spot the ads. It took 3 hours, then had AdBlock Plus an update to their software, and then suddenly it was blocked again. 3 hours. So it will be a constant hunt between the technology. I don't think it will be solved on a technology matter, because there will always be ways to sniff that out and to block it out, etc. Because there is people that are passionate about blocking ads as a technology, and free of charge they are, etc. What will change this, and that's what's happening right now, is that publishers simply say, if you don't allow ads, you won't see the content. As we speak, there is a Swedish initiative. I don't know in detail how far they got. Maybe some in here know what's more about that. But that all publishers in Sweden go together and then agree upon this is our standard. If you don't allow ads, you will not see the content. That will move away because people are not that obsessed with it. I mean, yeah, okay, I'll put ad blockers in. There are a few techie guys that are really obsessed with it, but normal people, oh, I didn't say that. Other people that are less interested in technology, well, stop digging, Mats. Anyway, us, yeah, so are not obsessed with it. If you just put in a choice, well, I just tested it, okay, I can switch it off, no problem. Because as I have another presentation, advertising and these brand money or any money that comes in, is the fuel of internet. That's what makes us live, as we all know. So having ad blockers in the long run will not be sustainable. So we will see a continuous decline of this. That's my view of it. So the magic word, of course, data. What we can see is that over the past 2-3 years, there's been a lot of discussion around the DSP functionalities, the head-to-head race between other DSP, which one of the DSPs are best functionalities like continuous campaigning, pacing, line items, budgeting, whatever optimization there are. We can see that race is now getting into a level where more or less everyone can do the same. There will always be some features and etc. But what's driving now is the fuel. That's the data. That will be the change going forward. The DSP will be the executor. And if you execute it with A or B, it doesn't matter. Of course, Adform's DSP is way better than anyone else. But if you are looking at it a little bit forward to it, it's the data. And who owns the data and where's the data? So let me spend a little bit of time on that. It's a huge area. And you could cut it in many ways. But what I will do is talk a little bit cross-device and then what we could call then creative data. But this is an interesting data point that I found. And you can interpret this better than I can maybe. But the fact is that this with segments is what we're talking about. Or everyone wants good segments, data segments, whatever it is. But is that the holy grail? No. What you want to get to is a personalization. You want to get towards a one-to-one interaction with the clients or with the customers. So the old classic customer lifecycle management is coming back again. How do we actually treat the client through both the funnel, but when he leaves the funnel and then about to go into the funnel again, which creates a lifecycle management, that's where the personalization comes in. So just we're having segments in your mind, well, that's not the future. And again, also, a lot of the marketeers, the buyers, are understanding and hooking up on this hype and the data-driven. This is just the start of it. Because we all want to get to the storytelling. There is a branding part in this. It's not only performance. Data-driven marketing and online has been driven by performance up until now, or up until recently. But now we see that it's a matter of storytelling. As I said, the life cycle management, the funnel management, which means that when we are talking about performance campaigns and brand campaigns, that will not be two different parts. I met up with an agency in London, and after a while they said, you know, we're a performance agency, right? We only do performance campaigns. Which means that they completely ignore, they completely disregard what kind of message is passed through. They only go for the performance. And that's not sustainable. That's not what it. So I pulled this together, brand performance campaigns or maybe performance brand campaigns. There is a new term coming out now. It's called creative management platforms. A little bit of a hype word for creative management. We have a toolkit or a studio, but the management platform, the creative management platform will drive towards that you have potentially thousands of creatives with different types of messages, different types of colors, whatever, and you optimize it through the creatives. Which creative is actually creating the best engagement? Engagement time is another performance metrics that will be important for the brand rather than click-through or retargeting. There are other measurements that is important for your brand campaign, which means it comes into a brand performance campaign or a campaign or a performance brand campaign. This will merge where you're talking about effective online campaigns and how you use data to reach your target. So when it comes to activating your data, because that's what it is, it's not the amount of it, it's that we have 2 billion cookies. It's a matter of activating your data and be able to understand which data is to be used in which scenario. But the data is everywhere. This is just examples. Mobile, email, cookies, offline. We want to data. CRM. The hottest one here, I would say, which we talk about the most, is the CRM, because a majority of those that are in the forefront have a lot of CRM data that you can capitalize on, which is quite interesting. Because CRM, per definition, customer relationship management, we have a relationship with our customers in there. And those we want to target, we want to reach, we want to have an engagement, we want to have storytelling with them, we want to keep them in our life cycle, all these things, right? So the CRM is really, really valuable data. You want to combine that and you want to reach these together with the cookies. In some sense, mobile, it's in the same. You do some email, and on top of that, search and offline and point of sales as it is. But those are the ones that we talk about most. So it all comes down to a lot of complex things. And my observation is, and we got researchers and these propeller heads that do nothing but crunch data day out and day in. And it easily becomes really complex. So my question is, do we all need to become kind of professors in data scientists in order to understand this? No. In any complex industry, it's driven a lot about this now. It's driven, and our observation is that it's driven by technology a lot at this point. There's a lot of talk about data, about the previous graph. But at the end, it is, which I said in the beginning here, what's driving it? What is the purpose of our campaign? What do we want to achieve? That's what needs to be driven. So keep in mind that what do you want to achieve? What data do we have available? What's our brand? What is the reach for that? Who do we want to reach? Where do we want to reach it? What is the purpose of it? And with what creatives do we want to reach them? And see to that there is technology that can support that. Understanding the exact how the various data is compiled and how the cookie matching is done and how the IDs are made and how you be able to get the point of sales data into it. Let these guys do that, the technology. Okay, so as I said, out of these then in general of the data, taking 2 examples where data is needed and can achieve what I just said, achieve some performance improvements, some results, and using data. And I won't go through exactly how the underlying data is done, it's more what you can achieve. Well, I touch upon it a little bit. I'm an old software developer, so yeah. Anyway, so cross-device. We have a problem, as it says, next big thing. It's quite interesting when you get these slides. It's the next big thing. Everything is next big thing, but this is one of the next big things. We all recognize that, right? 2.5 devices. For me, that's true. Looking at my family, I got 2 kids, 2 teenagers, daughters. Anyone else having that type of situation? 2 teenage daughters? Yeah. Well, anyway, that's the next big thing. It doesn't matter what mood they're in, they have a new one in 5 minutes. It's just from a complete harmonized family situation, it can go into complete chaos in just 2 minutes and you just don't realize anything. I have a wife too, so I'm a minority. I am a lone crusader in a female family. But we have definitely 2.5 devices. We do when we look at TV, and we all recognize that, but I think we are more. All of us have their phones, and we're looking at TV. My kids are looking more at the phone. They don't know what normal TV is. This is obvious, but it's quite interesting. We look at Modern Family, and then I said, which channel is this sent on? Netflix. Yeah, but it's been on a channel before. She just didn't get it. What do you mean? Now, it's been broadcasted every week on a channel. I don't know. I have Netflix. Yeah, right. So they don't know it. Linear TV is not something that they do understand. They do understand that X Factor and Idol is sent every Friday. That they know, but that's another thing. So 2.5, I think that's true. So we all know this scenario. You could do it in 2 different ways. Next slide will show it more in a technical way. This is more bubbles. You start using your phone. You're on your work. Well, none of us do any private things at work, so this is a bad example. And then in the evening, you purchase it on the tablet. We all know that. This slide shows it a little bit more on the complexity of it. This scenario is quite simple to understand, but the complexity comes when you start looking at the alternatives. About what? You had advertising touch points at the top, you had conversions at the bottom, different various, and then it's becoming mobile, web to app, desktop. So there is a journey here that's quite complex to follow. And if you are bombarding everyone and keep this as separate channels, things are getting out of sync a little bit. You will then bombard and you will not reach your users or your clients that you want to have a storytelling to, the ones that you want to engage with the personal ways in a good way. So cross-device is something that's really important. So you can frequency cap, so you don't bombard things, that you reach them at the right time. And then you can get more and more sexy, that you show whenever there's a TV ad, there's something popping up on the phone. Yeah, it becomes a little bit more sexy, but it's still a little bit complicated. There are other sexy ways that they can interact, which I will show a little bit later. That's a cliffhanger, right? There will be sexy things coming. That's the only thing that sells. Yeah. So, complexity. How does it work then? In order to do this cross-device, well, it is. There must be a DMP in the middle. We have a DMP. There are other DMPs also, to stay neutral here, not making a shameless promotion of Adform's product here. There are other DMPs out there also. But the terms here are the probabilistic. There's a separate course to learn to say that properly. Probabilistic, and there is deterministic. The deterministic is the login where you have the first-party data. The probabilistic is where you actually, based upon the patterns, and I didn't get this in the beginning. I thought it was just, yeah, right, it won't work. But it is actually quite efficient. The way what we're looking at there, and we are not looking, we're working with partners. It's a Screen 6 or Tapad or other partners out there that are the one that check the patterns of search history. There is the available data that you can get out of your patterns of what you search, what you visit, and your kind of, not fingerprints, but what you put as a mark out there. And then you can match that in some intelligent way so that you can realize that with a higher probability that these two users or devices are the same user. And I thought when I heard it first, and I can see the face of some of you that have heard about these things, that, wow, maybe it's not working. But it does. It is. If it's 91% accuracy, I'm fine. If it's only 80, I'm fine with that too. So with a high accuracy, there is ability to actually, together with this, drive. So you, with the probabilistic data and the deterministic data where it's available, be able to identify a device graph. The device graph means that you can draw a line between various devices and say, this is with a high probability the same user. And you can then work out of there with frequency capping, what you reach them, at what point, etc. So it works. And also, with an uplift, this is data out of our system. So we have a conversion, a campaign, without cross-device 310,000, with cross-device 435, 40% uplift as it is. If it's only 20% or 40, whatever, it works. So cross-device. We've been doing this for 1.5 years. Google released it a week ago. I just leave that in the room hanging a little bit. Sometimes silence is more than words. Yeah, not my profession, but anyway. Yep. So that's cross-device where data is used and used in an efficient way, but the result and what you can achieve is the most important, of course. Because given that, okay, now we know we can identify a user. That's hallelujah. But then what are we to present? Is there different timings in the day? What are the other things that you could use? And that's what I think is missing out in these performance discussions. What is actually the message? What are we bombarding these guys with? Could I just, a side story, maybe I told this story before, but 2 minutes? Fucking hell, he's boring. Actually, we're looking for a new country manager in Finland. So any one of you that have, you just need to have a normal CV because it can't be worse than the previous one. So we're recruiting. Thank you, Jan. That was the side story. Okay, 1 minute. Anyway, then full creative license. Again, what do we present? So these will be, I just want to point out a bidirectional data here. Creatives is in one way that you use data for populating creatives, and I will show you quickly a few examples just to fuel for thoughts. But it's also, with the better creatives, you will also get more data back, like engagement time, age, gender, etc. And I will show you how that works. So you can populate it. It's not only targeting, let's retarget him. It doesn't matter that he just bought the fucking hotel. Let's pump him with the Spanish hotels again. Let's do that. Right? You know, the retargeting. So it's bidirectional. Weather is something that is quite powerful. If we do it like this, when it's raining, but I mean, when it's raining, you start getting interesting in boots and different gears, right? I came to Finland and we've had nice weather across the day. I realized, oh, it's getting colder. I'm in the zone for buying a coat, definitely. So if you can use this and the coolness of it, but in mobile, it gets stronger. So if the first snow falls and you start doing a campaign like this, and it starts with then the technology and this is not complicated, but it's still, someone has given a thought on a creative. The result speaks for itself. When you do these type of weather engagements, whatever, just making a little bit more, the engagement times, and then down here, when it comes to engagement rate, which is what you are interested in, not only the conversion and click-through, it's even 50 times higher. Well, cut it with half, to 25 times higher, that's still an enormous better. So for me, this makes sense. When you start working with it, and this doesn't mean that you have to do all these crazy one setup with where you stand in front of a big screen and you play a game, and you need connected with some beacons, whatever. This is and should be considered as a standard campaign where you're just given the creatives a little bit more of a thought, what you want to achieve. Outdoor is coming, digital outdoor, doing that data-driven, and in this case, passing through a screen where this happens. In real time, there is a goal, and now the game is maybe not that relevant, but it could be Sweden, Finland in ice hockey. But now it's Germany 3-1, and it's Özil that scored it in 67 minutes. In the 67 minutes, the game is not over even, and now Adidas makes that. That makes another connection to it. This is something that's coming also, but the danger for this is that it will be 200 different apps that you're supposed to download in order to get a voucher for a burger or whatever it might be. So what happens with this, I don't know, but the technology is there to be able for within a certain arena to do a certain promotions, of course. This is augmented reality. This is the screen. This is De Mexico. This is our stand in De Mexico. This works. She started with a pair of glasses, which is probably the most relevant, but then just to show that we are able to do, and there are different emotions to it. Now it's more fun, but of course this fuels for ideas. What you can do with your brand, what they can be done with a brand when it comes to the augmented reality. This is one way to engage, but what I think it's one of the more powerful ones is this screen. It's the same screen, but it's a different software loaded to it. It recognizes age and gender. I will get to that next slide. I was in front of it together with John, and we came up as equal age. And that was not a joke. It was the truth. But it spots it really well, actually. It's in the time. It's in the range. It doesn't spot me like a 90-year-old or a 20-year-old. It spots me as the age I am. Now you can guess how old I am. That's another story. It spots me as a male, which is good. Otherwise, it's a little bit... and it has an accuracy that's impressive. And it spots it really fast when you pass through. So what it gives you is an opportunity to get some, and they are the bi-directional data. For a brand, an outdoor campaign, getting this data is quite an improvement from what it is today. You get age, proximity, gender, dwell time, engagement time. How often are people? They can see if you smile. So you don't have to do any crazy stuff in this. It's just when this, but it's still in that phase where it's just hats and stuff like that. This is the future. This will happen soon, where all outdoor screens will have this type of recognition so you can see. Then what do you do with that data? That's the next thing. How do you dwell upon that? Because then you feed that into the system again. And then you could start optimizing, getting a message out there that gives a longer engagement time, more people smiling, or more females looking at it rather than the male, because it was too sexy or not too sexy or whatever it is. I'm not a marketeer. I'm an old software developer. This is engaging. Then, last thing, and this will come also, virtual reality. We all love to go to IKEA, maybe not. So having brand parts, there's no end to this, where you will be able to engage. And the data you will get out of that will be even more, because then you see what products they're choosing, how they put it, how long they do it, if that was in. And then this is becoming a data that's so important for your marketing, because you could feed that back into the product. You could go endless with this, because everyone back home is shoppers and you register anything. It's like putting a sensor to everyone getting into IKEA, and they will take furniture back and you get feedback immediately whether they liked it or not, and back again. That's what happened in the virtual reality. So maybe we're not going to IKEA anymore. We'll see. It's hard to sit on them, but it's at least a thought. So that was a thought. Then, I thought I never would say this, but automatic guaranteed print. Those are words less than, and it shows how fast this moves. Less than 6 months, say 3 months ago, this was not on our radar. This was not something that we thought. But now, in the ecosystem and everything's going to digital, print is coming in also. So with that, we see in Europe that there is interesting players that are now looking at how can we get print into the system. So it's happening both with all the new, and I would have these two last slides as a contrast, virtual reality, but there's still a big print, and that's also coming as a technology into the ecosystem. That was it.
Thank you, Mats.